So if I'm just going to go through a little bit about the role of the school in terms of supporting you in your training and supporting you through the programme itself. The key area for getting information from about what we do and what we offer is obviously on our website. So I did share with you as part of the communications that I've been sending up until for this event today was the link to the main section of the website that actually goes through all that you need in relation to what your training journey looks like. Is actually, you've got your own space on the actual website. So the QR code's there, but I've sent you the link via email previously on a number of occasions, and it's really easy to find once you're on the website. So it's really clear how to access that area, which I can show you shortly. So everything's on there. What's also included in there, so you don't have to go to a special part of the site for this. You can navigate to these training standards from the actual ETP section. But I'd just like to draw trainees' attention to these, whether you're on the STP or the ETP programme, because they apply to both. We have a set of training standards and expectations of our trainers, so those that your training officers who actually oversee your training on a day-to-day basis. And we have these set of 5 standards that we expect them to adhere to. So they're pretty self-explanatory. So we've got plan, design and assess learning opportunities, right through to them understanding the limitations of their own role and how to signpost you to other areas of support, etc. But not only does the trainer have responsibilities for those standards, but so do you as a trainee. So it's really important for you to access those and have a look at what your responsibilities are against each of those. Sorry. It does make reference to other resources that are useful, particularly for the 5th one, which is know the limitations of your role. It does link you to our training support pages on our website too, to identify what support is available from us, but also external sources of support in terms of managing your own well-being too. And when we had our previous panel, and Evie, one of the training officers, was talking about, you know, in sort of what is available within the training departments as well. That's important for you to understand what's available at your own trust or employer. And that should happen as part of the induction with them as well. We've also got links to different packages that we've got available on the NHS Learning Hub, and we've got our own catalogue on there, and you can access those for free. And you used to have to come via me if you haven't got an NHS email address, but now they've developed it so that you can set up your own account. So you don't have to have an NHS email address now to set up your account, and it's really straightforward to do. So you can follow that on there. So just to say that some of the sources of information from us at the school, obviously we've got the website, as we've mentioned, but in terms of communication, as ETP trainees and your training officers, you'll be automatically added to our ETP monthly memo newsletter. So that will be sent to you via email every month, and it's, you know, it will feature any relevant news to you, any sort of events that might be coming up that might be of interest to you, It will pick up on any areas within your training journey that are that we might be directly participating in, and we'll raise that within the newsletter itself. And it will just give you some, whether there's some events coming up that either we're offering, or it might be external events as well that we might be advertising. And any updates in relation to your programme that might be relevant. We've also got an events section on our website, and we have different events run by us, but also we'll promote ones from external stakeholders or from some of the professional bodies. Sometimes they get in touch to ask us to promote some of their events too. And again, these tend to be advertised in the monthly memo also, so you'll be able to find the details on both. And from time to time, we might email you as well directly in relation to if there is some specific the specific information we need from you or we need to give you, but we try to keep that to a minimum, and we tend to try and schedule that so that you're not being bombarded by lots of different emails, and that's where the monthly memo comes in. That if they're sort of general things that we want to make you aware of, we'll try and advertise it through that rather than you getting multiple different emails. As we've said, our website contains a huge amount of information and guidance to help you during your 18 months on the programme. So have a look at the ETP section if you haven't already, but we've also got the training support section, and we've also got a sharing good practice section too. And that is where we hold and organise short webinar talks from peers and training departments. So it started off with training officers and trainers delivering areas of good practice around delivering training, whether that's on the ETP or the STP. And we've had quite a bit from the HSST. And it can be on anything on the actual being the role of a trainer, but we've also started to have trainees deliver on those as well, so short 10-minute talks around all sorts of topics. So we had a whole series from our HSST trainees last sort of between this time last year and up until recently, where they were talking about all sorts of topics that actually you might find interesting as trainees on the ETP. So things around managing imposter feelings, which comes up a lot, and sort of breaks down those sort of barriers about talking about those things. And we've got some really good talks on there about that. Also reflective practice, which is important across all programmes. And last week we had our first all STP trainee session, where we had 3 talks from our current STP trainees, and we've got another one tomorrow that's got another 3 talks. And I'm always looking for people as speakers. So in terms of the ETP, it's something that I want to do more of also. I'm trying to recruit some trainees and trainers to deliver some talks for that sharing good practice series. And there's an actual section on the website with all the talks, and it's set up as a catalogue for the individual talks that you can actually search for or filter as well. So please check that out. There's some, you might find that different ones at different times of your training journey might be useful. We will also provide your training officers, so your trainers and assessors, with resources and support. So there's a wealth of resources for them on the NHS Learning Hub. We've also got ETP Train the Trainer, which we've got one coming up in November, that's been advertised in our monthly memo and on the website. And again, we've got the sharing good practice catalogue that they can explore too. And some of the things that you might find interesting in the Learning Hub are around developing evidence, there's reflective practice, and there's planning for training as well. So in terms of the training standard 5, I was going to focus on for this little part of the talk for your induction. It's to do with how you're supported through your programme. So for your training officer, they're going to be overseeing your training, and they're your first line of communication and support. But there are going to be some areas that your training officer might not feel equipped to deal with. And so they might need to signpost you to the correct people or sources of support where necessary. So as a new member of staff, it would be expected that you receive a workplace induction, and that should include wider points of contact and sources of support in the organisation. So that might be occupational health, human resources, freedom to speak up, guardians, etc. So even if you're an in-service trainee, so you've been working at the trust for a while, maybe in a different capacity, it might be worth you revisiting who the points of contact are within your organisation who can give you that wider support. Excuse me. So in terms of your responsibility, it's really important that you speak to your training officer. So keep those lines of communication open. If you're struggling with any aspect of your training, or there are outside personal issues that are impacting upon directly impacted on your ability to be able to meet deadlines or keep up with your training, then it's really important that you speak to your training officer as soon as practically possible. And of course, if you feel that you can't speak to your training officer about it, or they're not available when you need to talk to someone about it, then obviously find someone else in your department that you actually that you feel that you can trust and that you can talk these through with. And it's really important that you're aware of the different training support options available to you. So there'll be the ones within your employing organisation, so where you're doing your training, but also we have support here at the school too. And that leads me on to talk about the role of the national school as well. So it's important that you understand what we are and what we're here for. And you can find a lot about what we do and how we can support you via that training support section of the website. And again, it's important that you maintain that positive professional relationship with your training officer, and keep them as well as us informed of any changes in your circumstances that could affect your progress. And I'll show you that section shortly on the training support section, so that you can see what that looks like and what's available. And of course, it's important that you look after your own mental health and well-being. And we had the trainees and the alumni identify some important areas and top tips really on how you can do that. And we do recognise that, giving you a lot of information today, you've probably had a lot of information from your employing organisation, and you will do from the university as well. And it is a lot to take in, but remember the people that can help, and that your training officer is that first port of call to actually, if you've got any concerns or want any clarification, it's really important that you reach out. But of course, the groups that you've developed today as part of the networking session is also really important. So if I just show you the training support section. So this is our homepage. So if you search for the national school, this is what you get. Just make this bigger. And the events page we find up there. So I mentioned that we have lots of different events. So you can see the inductions there, but we've got our sharing good practice, and then some external events as well are advertised on there. But also we have our training support section here. So it identifies your main sources of support during training. So that's yourself as at the top, your employer as well, so what they can offer. And then we've got university, so they'll have their own structures in place to actually support you. And as a student at that university, you have access to all the sources of support that any trainee would have, and that includes student support services. And of course, there's us as well. So in terms of when you need to access support or escalate any concerns or issues, we've developed this flowchart here, and this is actually on the website. So in those training support pages where it says about accessing support, it will show you this diagram basically. So if it's anything to do with your workplace, then obviously you discuss that with your workplace, so your training officer, and they can support you. If it's university support, then your academic part of the programme, then it's the university. So it'll be your senior lecturers, your programme lead, if it's for the academic side. But if it's for personal support, then you've got the student services or pastoral team within the university itself. And then there's alternative support, which might be anything that's external, really. So occupational health, it could be HR, GP, or other health services, counselling, mental health, etc. But there's two ways that we might get involved. If it's something that can't be resolved within the workplace or via the university, or you feel it's not being resolved, then obviously you can come to us and discuss that with us, or you can look at our website and access some of the resources on there. But if it's something that we need to be aware of, so if, for example, you need to take a step off or defer or have an extension, or if you're having parental leave, so maternity or paternity leave, then it's really important that we need to be kept informed of that, as well as your employing organisation and the university. So that's just identifies which policies will be followed in relation to that different training support. And you can find more details about those on our website. And we need to be kept in the loop. So if it's anything to do with statutory leave, so whether it's parental leave, so for maternity or paternity, then obviously that is initiated within your employing organisation, but the university and ourselves need to know about that, so that so that can be identified as part of your training plan. Any transfers of training, which should be in very exceptional circumstances, the transfer policy would be followed. And when you complete any completion of programmes, that's the completion policy. The top one with extensions, deferrals, step-offs or career breaks. So if, 18 months might seem a short period of time, but things can happen that are out of your control. And it might be that you need to initiate the exceptional extenuating circumstances policy. And if you feel like there is something that requires you to potentially have an extension or to defer your training, or for whatever reason, whether that's bereavement, changing circumstances, all sorts of things, then please contact us as soon as is possible. But obviously go through liaise with your training officer in the first instance. Just to mention, in terms of equality, diversity and inclusion, if you have any concerns or queries in relation to ED&I matters, then you can contact us. We do have an internal ED&I committee, and we've got Chanel there and Amrita, who are our chair and deputy chair of that. And this is where we discuss and raise awareness and support and affect change around ED&I matters by, you know, listening to our stakeholders and making sure, you know, that we review the way, you know, our policies and practices as well. And that leads me to sort of just mention standard 4, which is embedding equality, diversity and inclusion into your training. So there will be times where, you know, this has a dual meaning, basically. So as part of your training, your own practices and interactions with others should be equitable and inclusive. But also it has another meaning about having your needs met too. So if you are neurodivergent or have accessibility needs, for example, then make sure that we need to make sure your training department needs to make sure that those are met, okay, and you're able to progress through your programme. So in terms of standard 4, we've got a wealth of resources available, but it's really important for you to understand what your responsibilities are, particularly within your employment and when dealing with patients and respecting the you know, equality, diversity and inclusion. But it's also important for you to engage in the relevant mandatory training that you might be required to do within your employing organisation. But also it is important so that you're supported properly, that you're open about what your needs are as a learner, so that your trainer can be supported in providing you with the best training experience as well. It's also important for you to familiarise yourself with the sort of HCPC standards, the NHS constitution and its values, etc., so that you're working within those parameters of equality, diversity and inclusion. But if you're not sure about, you know, how you should approach certain tasks, etc., it's really important that you discuss this with your training officer. We've also got resources on the NHS Learning Hub as well, around embedding this into your practice, and your trainers have access to resources to support them as well. So in summary then, it's important for you to familiarise yourself with the training standards and your responsibilities for these, and please make your training officer aware of them too. These will be shared with them rather in the Train the Trainer, and they are advertised on our website and promoted via the monthly memo too. Sign up to the NHS Learning Hub and you can have a quick look. You can explore the quick guides that are on there that can support you with developing evidence for your portfolio, etc. Explore the training support and wellbeing resources on our website. So even if you know at the moment you think, oh, I'm fine, I don't need to access any support right now, it's sometimes a good idea to know what's there in advance, so that you know that you've got that resource to look at and to support you in accessing the right support. And of course, explore your role in equality, diversity and inclusion matters from a professional standpoint. So have you communicated or discussed your needs, for example, with your training officer? Have you had that conversation? And that might be something that you initiate if you haven't done so already. And have you had your workplace induction? And if you have, are you aware of what support is available for you during your training and beyond? So that is just a little bit from me in terms of what we offer, where to look for what is available to you.